Ye think that settled things? That folk will forget?
No, they won't forget. They'll continue to fear us, hate us. I've grown accustomed. Time I was on my way.
No? But why?
Witcher's lot in life. Always on the road, on the path.
Will you come back and see me sometime?
Hope so. Take care, kid.
So, I beat The Witcher 3 over the weekend. Yes, you heard that right. I have almost completely finished the game. That means the main quest, the side quests, the Witcher contracts, the treasure hunts, everything. I feel like I'm around 96% completion. There's just some hand-to-hand fighting competitions I have to take care of and collecting the rest of the Gwent cards. But other than that, I have pretty much done almost everything that vanilla Witcher 3 has to offer. And over the weekend, I finally beat the single-player campaign. Now, just a little bit of understanding about why it took me so long. So, The Witcher came out in late May, and around this time, I was also prepping for E3. In between this time before E3 started and I had to be in LA, and when Witcher 3 came out, I clocked in about 72 hours into the game. And I didn't even reach Ciri in that time, mind you. I was still doing a load of side quests. Gwent had me addicted. So many different activities that I could complete in the open world, and that it pulled me into the Witcher's world. Of course, I made my review based off of those 75 hours. And I guess this is just a little bit of my final thoughts on the base vanilla game of The Witcher 3. Now, I just completed it last night. It's going to go right off the dome, no script. Just a complete, genuine reaction to the ending of Witcher 3. Simply put, the last hour of Witcher 3's main story is fire. It is pretty much the climax that you are hoping for that actually happens. The game just keeps building and building to this final battle, and it does not disappoint. Geralt finally got his match against Eredin, and that boss fight was awesome. Considering now in this day and age, a lot of times the last boss fight is a big letdown because it's not even a challenge. Most of the time it might end up even being something stupid as some dialogue or even a quick time event to finish off the boss. This one was a very enjoyable and challenging fight. Wow, it was just phenomenal. And I think the coolest thing about this was, especially when I was making the beginning part of this video, was being able to see how I evolved, seeing how Geralt has evolved and changed, and with different armor and the different swords. I spent, before I did the final boss fight, I spent about an hour, maybe even two, just grinding away experience and grinding away to get money so I could get my master-crafted wolf gear. That means I was decked out in the master-crafted wolf outfit. I even went the extra mile after I did some calculations regarding damage and certain abilities and so forth for my build, since I was building Geralt in a sort of a hybrid of a swords master also mixed in with using signs. Basically, I was building him to be a sort of battle mage, if you will. Because originally, I was building Geralt to be more of this crit hit type of fast-hitting Geralt, and then, I don't know, like over time, I started to evolve. I started to change the way that I fought based off of pretty much the monsters I fought against, and finding that the signs were very useful. And while The Witcher 3's combat is not perfect by any stride, it does give you a great amount of diversity by which you can do it. If you actually go into using your signs and using items and your potions, all these things combined into one can give you an exhilarating experience in combat. I finally got the complex design of how the combat system works and all these different elements that pour into the combat experience. Thinking about what potions I was going to bring in a fight, finding the weakness of the monster, analyzing their attack patterns, dodging, all these amazing things. And it truly made my experience so much more robust and making me feel good that I was taking the time to learn these new recipes, actually going out there and actually crafting. There are a few things more rewarding than taking the time to finally master crafting all of your items. It just makes you feel complete. And into that respect, that is how I feel with The Witcher 3. it feels complete. In an age where so many games feel unfinished or endings don't have a lot of closure, Witcher 3 gives you everything you need. Great closure with different endings based off of the choices that you do in the single player. It is just so cool to just watch. And talking about the ending and more of the overarching theme of Witcher 3, which is there is no such thing as good and evil. There is only the gray line. There is not always a right and a wrong. Sometimes in life, it is hard to differentiate what is right and what is wrong. And in some moments, there's not even a right and a wrong. Sometimes it's just wrong, and you having to choose the lesser of two evils is something heart-staking that so many video games barely touch. A lot of video games have this very radical view. Even one of my favorite games, Mass Effect, where it's Paragon or Renegade, where it's good or evil, doing a good action or an evil action. But Witcher blends in the middle of the actions that you took, or if those actions were actually justified. So many times in the game, I completed a sort of story arc, whether it was main or side quest, and there would be this small little epilogue cinematic explaining the theme of that said quest. Now, the cool thing about this is, even when you complete that quest, it doesn't automatically trigger this epilogue. Sometimes it's when you go back and you meet those people, you get to see the results of your choices, and you get to see how the world and how those characters have changed for better or for worse based off of your decision. And then the epilogue for that quest will trigger, leaving you with some sort of knowledge or some sort of advice that Geralt gives you. And I feel like the epilogue section of Witcher 3 is phenomenal. What CD Projekt does is Ciri goes into the tower, and there's this moment where you feel as one with Geralt. With me, I love Ciri. Ciri is by far one of my new favorite characters in video games. And I loved her personality, rebellious sort of attitude, and the idealist that she was, and her idealist sort of philosophy, and how it at some points even influences Geralt, who is more of a pragmatist, which is something that the elf sage brings up actually in the final hours of Witcher 3. Seeing someone like that you care about, that you were attached to, and it wasn't the main character, mind you, making a choice, and you having the choice to say, please don't do this to me, or good luck. At the end, I understood what Ciri stood for. And at that moment where she was worried that she thought I wouldn't understand, it was at that moment I understood. And she said the most profound thing in the entire game. She said,
"There's gotta be another way."
What can you know about saving the world, silly? You're but a witcher. This is my story, not yours. You must let me finish telling it.
And that hit me on the nose, because so many times we play video games and we play these main characters and we expect it to be about us. It's always about us, the character. And then I played Witcher 3 thinking, this is my story, this is Geralt's story. No, this is Ciri's story. This is her adventure. Some people felt that the story in the beginning was was just a fetch quest. But honestly, I don't think you get it. See, the story is about Ciri. It doesn't revolve around us. We were just simply trying to catch up to understand that story, to see the full picture of that story. And that's when the writing truly becomes a sort of masterpiece, where it tells the story of someone else and you being a part of their story. And when I understood that, it wasn't difficult for me to say,
"Good luck, Ciri."
Perhaps I should have told you. I see now you might have understood.
Know you better than you think.
And me being Geralt, I had to respect her choice, her opinion, her thoughts. She wasn't just this two-dimensional character that I was constantly trying to catch up to. She was a person to me. She was a person that I respected of her mindset and her opinion. And when she walked through that tower and she was walking through the snow and they had the flashbacks, it was that moment that I felt that Geralt and I were one character. We weren't separate. A lot of the times when I was playing Witcher 3, mostly as a out-of-body experience of I was watching Geralt do his thing. I was controlling Geralt, but the things that were happening to Geralt really weren't affecting me. It was more of me feeling this sort of emotion towards how Geralt must be feeling. The moment where Ciri walks through that tower and the flashbacks play, I felt the same way Geralt did. I was devastated. I felt like it was Mass Effect 3's ending all over again. I didn't know what happened, and I was worried. I was like, oh no, don't tell me, I'm not gonna find out what happened to Ciri. Going through talking with Ciri's father, the Emperor, and walking past. This is where the genius of the writing of Witcher 3 happens. How CD Projekt decides that for the epilogue, they have you walking back to White Orchard, walking back through the same areas that you were already previously at the beginning of the game, of having those memories with Vermeer, or walking through that graveyard and running to a wraith for the first time that killed me, or fighting against that pack of wolves for the first time. All these sort of memories that I got at the beginning of the game just all of a sudden just started to hit me over and over again. All of these things, and leading up to getting the sword from Master Orr. When I saw that scene, I'm not gonna lie, I thought Ciri was dead when I got the sword from Master Orr, of a redesign of Ciri's sword with the added inscription. And I chose the inscription, the flash of light that pierces the darkness, because if you think about it, I picked that choice because I thought Ciri was dead. And I chose that inscription because I wanted it to be a reminder to me that Ciri would always be with me even though she was gone. And you can actually see in the gameplay where immediately after the cutscene's done, I switched to the sword. And I paused for a second because I found it weird that there was no damage on it. So I was like, oh, this must be the in-game weapon, best weapon you can wield. That's a silver sword. So I'm walking to the inn and it says I'm supposed to meet one other person. And through my choices, I was expecting it to be Triss because I decided that I would, settle down with Triss. But when I walked into that lodge, just something inside of me felt like, please let it be Ciri. And right when Geralt turned that corner and you see the hood, it was like, that's Ciri, and my eyes lit up. I was so happy to see that hooded person. And when I sat down and I saw the ashen hair and I saw that it was Ciri and that she had lived, a huge rush of just happiness just hit me, and just being proud and finding out that she's now a Witcher, and that sword that I thought was for me was for her. And that it was as if my legacy, if you will, was being passed down to her. It stayed with me. I feel that Witcher 3 will always stay with me. Not only is it one of my favorite games of all time, and yes, it's not perfect by any stride. A lot of people were surprised when I say that I've never given a game a 10 out of 10. And I probably never will, because there's no such thing as a person being able to make a perfect game. And there's no such thing as perfection, because we have faults as humans. And I feel like that's what makes Witcher 3 for me so memorable, is because if you play this game, you can feel the passion from CD Projekt Red when they built this game, that this was their final game of their trilogy, that they poured their hearts and soul into this game, that they took a stand against this current DLC culture that we have, and that they delivered, that they absolutely delivered, and they gave me everything that I wanted for a game, for a RPG. It makes this game special for me. And when a game can affect you and teach you and even influence your own mindset, that's when video games become something more than just games. That's when video games become art. And for me, Witcher 3 is just that.
Let's try it out then.
The Third Northern War ended. The invader from the south achieved complete victory. Robbed of Radovid's tactical genius, the northern realms could not withstand Emir's countless legions. Black banners appeared over Novigrad and all Redania. Weary of rebel raids, Emir Varemres conceded, restoring Temeria as a realm in liege to the Empire. When the guerrillas laid down their arms, the Emperor shifted his forces to other fronts. Through Nilfgaard's victory, the Temerians got their country back. History, once again, proved a consummate trickster. Having dealt with Radovid, Emir of Varemres did the same with enemies domestic. The Emperor's loyal spies named all who had conspired against him, traitors, soldiers, and aristocrats alike. Though their mutiny had only been a murky plan, the Emperor showed no mercy, as was his wont. While the continent bled engulfed by war, Skellige bloomed under Ceres's enlightened rule. Unlike those who had come before her, the young queen did not raid foreign shores, looking instead to her people, tending to her land. The island-bound nation prospered, though its fangs of yore were dulled. Cirilla, Fiona, Ellen, Rhiannon, heir to Nilfgaard's throne, chose the life of a witcher on the path. Geralt taught her all he knew, every skill he possessed, then each set off on their own. Soon word of the ashen-haired witcheress had spread throughout the north. from the Yaruga to the mountains of Kovir. Hard as it may be to believe, Geralt planted roots in faraway Kovir. He and Triss settled down, their home warm and smelling of freshly baked cakes. Guests were always welcome, no matter the day or the hour. The Witcher would take jobs at times more from habit than need, for Triss earned a true fortune as the mage advisor to Kovir's king.